Oh, well, hello, my wonderful people, Maverick and Broskies and Broskies of Maverick Nation. I am Dark Shadow Maverick, Dark the Shadow Maverick, and, well, you know how I said I was going to do that James Bond, John Wick crossover movie? You know, 3-parter? Well, I kind of changed plans. Don't worry, James Bond and John Wick are still involved in this. If you read the title, you know that that's the case. Because in this, Izuku will be the son of James Bond and John Wick. Or adopted son. And you guys might be like, how was this possible? And why would they even bother doing this? They're literally freaking assassins. One for the government, one just for whatever reason. Look at you, John Wick. And, well, I say to you, which just is around to the world of, quirks, My Hero Academia, they might have a little bit more reason to do this. Let me set the scene. Basically, Izuku Midoriya, he was only 5 whenever it happened. He went to the quirk doctor with his mother, and his father. Basically, he has little memory of them now, except for this event. And some others, but that's besides the point. Izuku Midoriya, well, Izuku, whenever he got the results, and everyone else got the results, the Midoriyas, that he was quirkless, well, things didn't look too good. However, behind the scenes, you could hear people talking. One person being like, so it's confirmed. That kitten wasn't quirkless. It was stolen. And that means someone working for him is here. Though, that also means I can't make my move yet. Or possibly not in the near future. But I've played the waiting game before. And someone else would chime in, oh, so you're also doing this. And then the person would just be like, Bond, will you stop that? I'm trying to investigate into this. And Bond would just be like, Wick, I'm doing the same thing. Remember partnership? And Wick would just be like, I thought you left MI6 a while back. And, Bond would just be like, which is why I'm partnering with you. So, this boy, he's quirkless. Most likely won't be favored by mass populace. You think that there might be people after him, considering what he has. Someone else. Someone of a military light, but not like us. Not an assassin, but a soldier. And someone who died in the end, but was freed whenever things came to a close. At least their soul was freed. I was told. And Wick would be like, the boss. You heard that story too? And Bond would be like, we both did, and that's why it's not a story. And Bond would just go on to explain, the boss's blood runs through his veins. While there may no longer be any snakes, that doesn't mean there's not any room for more big bosses. I believe you know what my meaning is. You catch my meaning? Wick. And John Wick would just be like, training this kid to be... well, isn't there already a successor to that title? And Bond would just be like, yes, but he's dead, and his sons, well, while they were fighting for it, couldn't really decide. And it all blew up in their face in the end. Or faces. And Wick would just be like, well, that means... he would indeed be the son of Snake. And if he's the son of Snake, that makes him the grandson of Big Boss. And that makes him the great-grandson of the Boss. Part of the Cobra unit, if I recall. And Bond would just add Cobra unit-ish. You know what I mean. Wick. And John Wick would just be like, yes, I know what you mean. She wasn't really, it was all that Major Zero guy's fault, I know. The story's clear to me, and it's clear to you, so no need to thread over it. Just know that this guy is long lineage of not only snakes, but the boss. And Big Boss. That is a strong lineage. This kid, if I'm looking at the records correctly, I have no idea how Snake has survived this long and was able to change his identity to Asashi Midoriya. Son of Snake, that means grandson of Big Boss, that means great-grandson of the Boss, that means great-great-grandson of the Sorrow, the previous boss before her. Who basically she killed in order to get the title. It's not really something she's proud of, though. At least from what I've heard, she's not proud of it. She was never proud of it. And Bond just like, and you act like you're supposed to be surprised? I mean, the woman did have a heart. She was a killer, but she did have a heart. before she died. So, a great lineage of snakes and big bosses. And bosses. Oh my. And so, he would also have the inheritance of outer heaven. Is that what you mean? And John Wick wasn't even thinking about outer heaven. He was like, outer heaven? Is that even still standing? James. And James Bond would be like, well, if I brung it up, then yes, it is still standing. Regardless of what happened after the whole big boss thing and whole snake thing, yes, outer heaven still does stand, but it would need some rebranding and refurbishing in the good old way of a new era. The era of this boy. He needs to discover who he is, who he really is, and why not having a quirk really doesn't matter. And we will be the ones to do that, won't we? And, John Wick would just be like, well, that's what we were sent to do. And, well, I think we ought to owe it to the boss. And subsequently other members of the Foxhound unit. They are a military staple. And even though we're assassins, not exactly military, their blood of the warriors flows through their veins just as much as it does ours. So, yes, indeed, I do feel we do owe it to them. All of them. Even Frank Yeager and Revolver Ocelot. Damn. They were like family as well. Hell, Revolver Ocelot was the boss's son. So indeed, would be related to Izuku. Big Boss may have been the boss's son in only surrogacy, but surrogacy be damned, she still did care for him. So, the torch still stands, and the flame must still go on. There may no longer be any snakes, but there will be a new big boss. And we'll be the ones to make sure that happens, and that Izuku is that big boss. And Bond is just like, you seem very into this. I like the fact that we're all on the same page for once. And, Wick is just like, don't push it. And then Bond is just like, it seems I was mistaken. And then all of a sudden, just, sneaking around because, assassins, literally, Bond is an assassin for the government, and Wick is an assassin, period. So they'd be stealthy whenever they did this. They would just be looking around and looking at the life of the Midorias. And they would see the moment whenever Hisashi, knowing about the fact that his son is quirkless, would be like, no, I cannot have this happen again. No more snakes, no more bosses, none of this. And so he would explain everything. Basically, that he could to his wife, and that this had to end. There could not be a continuing legacy of bloodshed. He would not let it happen. Foxhound had to die. And if he had to do it by force, he would. And so, just throws multiple explosives in multiple different directions, and is right about to use his fire breath quirk. Because, Snake did end up getting a quirk after, the years, because quirks did end up coming into fruition, and so his DNA kind of molded to the current years, and so he ended up getting a quirk. Though, since he's a clone, the fire breath quirk is kind of messy, so whenever it does touch the explosives, it is a lot more impactful than, Snake wanted it to be. Snake / Hisashi. And, right before everything went kablooey, Hisashi would admit that his name is actually, Snake. Or at least the name that he's known for the longest time, before, he met Inko and had to make something up. And that there may no longer be any room for snakes, and there's especially no longer any more room for big bosses. And so he'll just kill off the entire Foxhound unit by making sure no one of the line survives. Even if he has to kill his own damn son. Because, he was ready to keep him alive if he had a quirk, because that means he wouldn't, inherit, the military might of the Foxhound unit. So, since he doesn't have a quirk, well, yeah, you get the picture. You should, at least. And basically, after the explosion dies down, basically the only one left alive, seeing as James and Wick couldn't get there fast enough, they had to be discreet, so they were too far away, couldn't get there fast enough. So the only one left out of there alive is Izuku, because somehow, someway, he knew what was happening and what was about to happen, and was able to correspondingly do exactly what he needed to do in order to survive. And Izuku has no idea how any of that, so Izuku is super confused, and then whenever he realizes everything, super sad, and just not understanding why his father, and then he just realizes, like, this pain shooting through his head, the past few minutes. Basically, the explanation, the Foxhound unit has to die, all that. And so basically, his own father was ready to kill him and his mother just to make sure that the Foxhound unit didn't live anymore. And so, Izuku was just miserable. And, so whenever he sees two people come up to him, he's terrified, but not too terrified. Like, he's still able to stay there. He's actually kind of curious. And his curiosity kind of outweighs his fears, for some reason. And then he feels it. Is that his Foxhound blood? His military might? Inside of him? Running through his veins? that these two people may not exactly be soldiers, but they might know the art of war similar to him, or at least his bloodline. The Foxhound Unit / Cobra Unit back in the old days. And, well, the two people approach him, and they say that their names are James Bond and John Wick. And that they would like to, well, before he even gets a chance to become an orphan, like a genuine orphan, and, like, homeless, just, like, completely just, like, parentless, homeless, just, like, adopt him. And so they would go to the nearest, like, freaking, like, daycare place or whatever place and, you know, sign papers and, like, yeah, we're gonna take care of this kid. And basically, Bond would just pull up his car because, of course, he has like a bajillion cars, so why not his car out of the two of them? And so, yeah, just like, well, kiddo, you're only 5. Get in the back. I'm driving since this is my car. John, get in the passenger seat. And John would just be like, yes, I know this already. Buckle in, kiddo. And Izuku would just be like, okay. And basically, whenever they would drive over, you know, they would drive over to the city of Hosu. And basically, why Hosu? Well, because the only other place I could think of was Tokyo, and, well, bleh, for some reason. Actually, should I do Tokyo? Yeah, Tokyo. And because Hosu seems too much of a generic place for him to move to. So they just go over to Tokyo, the freaking capital of Japan, I think. And so, basically, while still letting Izuku, like letting him be a kid for a couple years, they do drill in him a couple, disciplines to start the training a little early, but still let him have a childhood. They don't want him being a total child soldier. They just want him to be able to inherit what he needs to inherit whenever he can inherit it. Basically, outer heaven and everything that comes with it. And everything before that. And so basically, in the meantime, all of 007 and John Wick's contacts that they still keep, the people that they still keep around them, which 007 would obviously have more people because, John Wick kind of went off the wheel. So yeah, it's mostly 007's people, like MI6. So basically, MI6, hearing about this kid carrying the Foxhound bloodline, and they're like, well, this could be interesting. They're like, if they help this happen, this could be good for them. This could be interesting for all of them. So yeah, it's like mutual benefits. So basically, over the years, Izuku wouldn't really be like a hero-holic. He would still have his dreams, but, they would be more focused towards a path of a soldier, not really a hero. Well, a hero in his own way, kind of, because soldiers are indeed, the heroes in their own ways. And little did Izuku know that this would only be the beginning. As the more and more Izuku would just go through all of this, and finally, whenever he did reach the age of 15, at the start of the anime, Wick and, Bond would decide to give him a little bit of a birthday present. A big-ass birthday present. Outer heaven. Yes, Izuku would have proven himself responsible enough and capable enough to, with their help and the help of their contacts, and anyone else who wanted to help who wouldn't rat them out, since, Wick and Bond are assassins, one for the government and just one for whatever reason. Look at you again, Wick. And so basically, with help from all those people, but still, outer heaven. Living the dream. As what Izuku would be feeling right now, he'd be feeling like he would be living the dream. Because, there had always been whispers about outer heaven, but he had never really gotten the full scope of what it was like. Or what it would be like once he inherited it fully. And that's whenever Bond and Wick decided to drop the bomb on Izuku that, well, he did indeed inherit it. He didn't inherit it. Because, in order to fully inherit outer heaven, you'd kind of have to go through, a test. And since there's no real, records of any foolproof tests that Izuku could go through without killing himself, in the records of outer heaven, Wick and Bond had to make one for him. That would not really be something that they would, plan. That would be something that they would need extra help more than MI6 or any of Wick's contacts that would actually be loyal to him could give them. And that's whenever they thought, what about outside of the box contacts? Like someone they made friends with early on just to make sure they didn't get under the water, blood in the water. Principal Nezu. Yes, Bond and Wick made friends with the little guy. Dude. And even, a certain friend of his, Shota Aizawa. Not Hero Eraserhead. Just enough so that, basically, whenever it came time, they would have something for Izuku to do. And, well, the idea is brought up, what about going to UA? I mean, not to become an official hero, but to officially inherit Outer Heaven. I mean, being a soldier still technically makes him a kind of hero, just not a pro-hero. It makes him a different kind of hero. And this Outer Heaven isn't even like the kind of military, like the usual military. It's a different kind of military. Outer Heaven is different. It is way different. That's kind of the reason why Big Boss even made Outer Heaven. Because, reasons. And so, whenever this is brought up to Izuku's attention to Izuku, basically he's like, okay, I will pass. I will basically, go through this entire school thing and, UA, and, well, once I do, Outer Heaven is mine. But Izuku's not really thinking all that greedily. He's just thinking, finally I will have full inheritance of Outer Heaven once I, pass through UA. So there is a reason for him to actually go to UA in this. To fully get inheritance of Outer Heaven, because right now he's sharing it with Bond and Wick. He's sharing the inheritance. But once he, passes through the entire 3 school years of UA, he will get official full inheritance. Because not only will he have enough, skills and power, but he will be old enough. Well, ish. And then officially after that, they will kind of give their own little mini exam in which basically will be fighting Bond and Wick. After that, so to make sure that Izuku is truly ready to inherit Outer Heaven. And Nezu, considering Izuku's circumstances, allows him to use things that would usually be considered for support course students in the hero course, like 1A. Because Nezu already knows the circumstances of Izuku's, even going to UA. Man's on a mission. To get that inheritance. And that night, when Izuku's all alone in his room, he just has to ask himself, who exactly is he? He knows his name is Izuku Midoriya, but, who would he be? He knows a saying about no more snakes, but then there's also the thing about no more big bosses, or bosses, or... That doesn't feel right to him. It feels like the world, without the boss, without Big Boss, without it hasn't really, it's gone off the wheel, really. So Izuku decided he's going to get the world back on the wheel by becoming the new Big Boss once he inherits Outer Heaven. That is who he is. And who he will officially become once he inherits Outer Heaven. That is his decision. And little does he know, but Bond and Wick are listening into this conversation with Izuku's self. And are like, we knew it was right to do this. And they would be like, Joy, you would be proud. Because they know that the name of the boss was Joy. That was her real name. They're like, Joy, you would be proud. You would be proud of this kid. He's gonna go far, if he hasn't gone far already. So, yeah. Tone officially set. Tone officially set.